And we are live. Good afternoon, LinkedIn. My name is Steve Ferreira. I'm CEO of Ocean Audit in Hartford, Connecticut. And welcome to OK Boomer Live with Lapel Pin Guy. Well, I had to take this suit jacket off today because hot temperatures in Connecticut, but the lapel pins are safely ensconced away today. I'll tell you something, I prepared for this episode, and I have the distinguished pleasure to introduce one of our great guest speakers that I've had on OK Boomer Live. And it's my friend John Haber from Spend Management Experts, who's the CEO. Let me bring in John today, and we'll have a great talk on everything supply chain, and hopefully answer a lot of questions that you have about the current status of the supply chain, parcel, ocean, and really anything that affects the economics of your business. So without further ado, let me introduce to you my friend, John Haber. John, welcome to OK Boomer Live.
Good afternoon, Steve. Thanks for having me.
John, it's my honor. John, I was thinking about preparation for our great get-together today, and this show could either be called Two Profit Experts or Two Guys in their 50s with kids under 10 at home. So you go figure.
I know. We're in a small population of people that fit those two categories.
I had to make sure as we configure the Ethan Allen studio here at the Ferreira household that the Taekwondo lessons are underway and that there'll be no further interruptions. So I'm glad that OK Boomer can boom into your neighborhoods across the world and the country. And let me thank our entire LinkedIn audience for joining and signing up. John, you're a media maven. I think because of that, we had over 150 people attend or sign up for the session, either live or on the live stream. And I think it's our best audience yet. So, John, I know that without further ado, I'd like to formally introduce you. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet John Haber. John is the CEO of Spend Management Experts in the greater Atlanta area. John is a well-known industry expert with too many multiple credits in CNN and Fox and various news outlets all across the country, talking about his specialty and expertise in parcel and spend management and actually everything supply chain. Is that right, John?
Yeah, that's correct, Steve, and thanks for the introduction. I think the people are really on the show to see you, but I'm happy to join you. Looking forward to. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to catch up on. There is a lot of craziness going on in the world of logistics right now. It's a good time to be a supply chain professional. Kind of lucked into this profession with a political science degree, but this is what I've been doing for the last 25 years, so ready to dive in.
John, what I love about what you do is, and again, I've always approached what I do as the CEO of Ocean Audit as, I guess I've always put a sales, marketing, and creative lens, to the landscape of cost control and efficiency. But I know one of the strengths of what you have in your background is you're a financial guy. And so, to have the chops that you have in communicating up and down the organizations, the corporate organizations, and your Fortune 100, 500, 1,000 clients you can talk so creatively, but you're able to really help them and model in the financials, which I think is such a strong attribute that thought leaders and luxury leaders are looking at today. And as a matter of fact, that's really springboards my first question about how, in our businesses, you and I are in the corporate boardrooms talking to CFO and thought leaders, but now we're in their living rooms looking at their Zoom backgrounds as we talk to these significant, C leaders. And I guess my question is, if you had to generalize based on the talks that you're hearing right now in August, what are the type of conversations that you're hearing from these leaders that you're speaking to, and what are their biggest fears?
Right now, the biggest fear for a lot of our clients is capacity on the last mile delivery is a huge problem, especially as we're going into peak season. The reality is we've been in peak season since April, since the pandemic started, especially in the small parcel world where we focus a lot of our time on small parcel. And so capacity is a problem It's been a problem. When capacity is a problem, that leads to rate escalation. And controlling costs right now is really, really challenging. UPS, FedEx, and for the first time ever, the post office announced peak season surcharges last week. These are going to hit shippers in the pocket, and it's going to be big. I mean, we're doing costing analysis right now across all of our clients. I'm looking at some of our retail customers, multiple millions of dollars in increased cost just over a 3.5 month time period. It's not in their budgets. They don't have that in their budgets, and they can try and pass some of it down to the consumer, but the consumer expects free shipping, and it's a very big challenge for a lot of retailers that are struggling right now.
John, we'll get into a lot of those bullets that you mentioned, and we'll dissect them and give our viewership some real takeaways that they can use today. One of the things I love about being with you is that we know of each other, and our businesses are somewhat complementary, where we don't compete. And on the side that you're talking about now, on cost structure and cost pressure, I'm seeing it from the ocean side, where I made a call a week ago in my LinkedIn live show that I felt that ocean rates would be going from the $3,000s to about $4,000. Now it seems all but certain that ocean rates to the West Coast will go from $3,400 to $4,000 by mid-September. And so can you break down, John, talking about the cost pressure in parcel, how did the recently announced price increases from FedEx, UPS, and USPS, how will they impact shippers? What are they looking at in terms of extra costs, in terms of perhaps a general percentage of increases over the next couple of weeks and months?
There are really two primary areas where these new surcharges are focused. Number one, on residential shipments. Because of the pandemic, the parcel carriers have experienced a huge shift in their delivery profile from commercial to residential. UPS is now estimating that 70% of their deliveries are residential. If you look at the comparable quarter last year, it was maybe 55% residential. Residential deliveries are much less profitable. The delivery density, the number of packages delivered per stop, you're looking at just a little bit over one package, as opposed to on a commercial, it's more like 3 packages. So the revenue per stop of that delivery, and as well as just the having to go to the residence, having to drive farther between stops, that really is, so they're focused on improving the profitability in residential, which leads to their changes they've announced on residential surcharges for air, ground, on SurePost and SmartPost. The post office has now, like I said, they rolled out a peak season surcharge for residential. They're targeting larger customers for the most part. With UPS, you need to ship 25,000 packages a week during the time period they specified. If you do, based on the service level calculation, that you have to be a nuclear scientist to figure out how the surcharges apply, because there's all this criteria. And so, I mean, even people like me who do this every day, we still have had to get clarification on exactly how it's going to be calculated. So 25,000, and then FedEx, it's got 35,000. The other area where they're really targeting is, now that you have all these people shipping big, bulky product in the small parcel network, so additional handling, large package surcharge, that's going to apply to almost every shipper. All you need to do is ship 10 of those in 1 week, and then you're going to get hit with that for the whole time. So big, bulky items, residential items, that's what they're targeting.
Well, that's really interesting. Let's put it a little bit into context too, because corporations are dealing with these extreme price increases, some new regulations, enhanced or reduced delivery modes. And, John, one of the things that I'm seeing and hearing, we're in front of corporations all the time. That's how you and I make our livelihood. And in the ocean freight side of things, for example, I just met with a very large footwear company. And I think that normally they would have, let's say, 9 people in logistics, operations, supply chain, running the catbird seat with, 9 people. And now they're doing it with 2. And, the finance leaders are saying, wow, they're doing a pretty good job. Meanwhile, these, logistics team members are working like, just, night and day, basically out of bed to the computer. And, it's 2 people running these complex operations instead of 9. And at the same time, one of the things that happens just in terms of human relationships is when you start to see cost overruns, right? Like in ocean, the prices are going way up. So the finance guys are coming to the logistics team that are now down from 9 people to 2 people and saying, hey, explain these cost overruns. How do you condense, how do you take that context and rationalize it in terms of giving a contextual answer to a CFO leader about putting up with increased pricing, and overruns, and at the same time having to work with less and doing more. So give me your thoughts in when you see corporations and what's the best practice that you might give a CFO or a logistics leader based on what I said.
I mean, 2 people can't do a 9-person job, and so there's stuff's going to fall through the cracks. The business models that we've set up, it's kind of we try to set up a model that's a no-brainer for a CFO, and the fact that you don't have to pay us unless we save you money. We look at it as though we're paying our clients to use us. We pay, if we save you money, then we take a percentage, and we're going to add bandwidth to your team. We're going to add 5 people to your team. One of the things that we highlight is the savings that we deliver to our clients can be reinvested. We've got companies where we've saved them a couple $1 million a year. They went and hired 5 full-time logistics resources. We funded them staffing a logistics team.
That's awesome.
It ended up hurting us in the long run because that logistics team started doing a lot of the work we were doing. But that's what you try and sell. You can reinvest into technology, and so that's what we try and position to the CFO, that we're all about execution, and that's what you should be looking at. There's a lot of consulting firms that you can pay a lot of money to give advice. Our model is to execute. That's what I would be looking at if I was advising a CFO.
John, something, you just said something, I don't know, whatever, we got a lot of things to talk about still, but one huge takeaway that I have from today's conversation, and I share it completely with you. In Ocean, I've always tried to show the CFO and the organization that you can go from a real strong area of indirect spend to funding, or at least making that logistics or that operational end of Ocean or Parcel, whatever it is, having it to be a little bit of a profit center. With the types of things that you've done, you've actually been able to take the 5 people that have hypothetically been furloughed, and you've actually been able to show a way to get them back on board with the excess funding. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, I love that. We put together a presentation for the CFO. We guaranteed these savings are going to be realized. We signed off on it before he made the hires.
I love that. I think that is just, intrinsic value that what thought leaders are looking for right now. And I think that the problem is, and I'm close to 2 Fortune 100 CFOs, and they tell me all the time, it's like, sometimes we don't know what the left and the right hand's doing. And I said, well, you've got to have a better handle on that. And I'm always encouraging these crossover meetings between, controllers and finance people and supply chain, because quite frankly, there was a study on LinkedIn polling today that said there was a 27% dissatisfaction, in logistics and supply chain jobs right now. The confidence feeling is not there because companies are making them do more with less. But I think that, again, and this is no commercial for either Ocean Audit or spend management, but I think that what we have to do as professionals, you and I, right, is convince and show the corporate world that there are solutions to the excess spend and the expense side. And I think what you've done is terrific. And I think we just have to find ways to constructively deliver that message, because each CFO sees it a bit differently. Would you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we work with shippers, mainly larger shippers, mid market and Fortune 500, Fortune 1000. But it's amazing to us the within internally a lot of people, they don't talk. We're coming in and we look at we're working with a retailer, and we know they have an e-commerce platform, and we're looking at their spend information. It's only store spend. We said, where's all your e-com data? They don't manage it. The logistics doesn't manage
Exactly.
it. Marketing manages it.
Exactly.
There's another $10 million in spend that's not even rolling up into the logistics cost. It's in marketing. And so you've got to have marketing, you've got to have logistics, you've got to have finance, you have to have a cross-functional team that is heavily involved in monitoring your supply chain now more than ever. Supply chains were not prepared from a risk management standpoint for what happened during this pandemic. And that's been highlighted, and people are scrambling to fix it. And especially in the PPE and with the testing, things have not been really buttoned up, and it's been highlighted.
John, I couldn't agree with you more. Sometimes I even think about, ocean audit shouldn't be ocean audit. It should be art and science, because I think what you're throwing out here is the fact that we as thought leaders have to be savvy enough to be able to communicate, best practices. And I think sometimes best practices go to completely out the window, especially like what you just said, post-crisis or during the crisis. So, John, let's shift gears, because I know my audience is interested in touching on some of these issues. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is the Postal Service is FedEx's largest customer in general.
Yeah.
That's a true statement, right? And my question is, with the potentially, let's just say there's a reduced volume scenario there in that relationship, and that could potentially put pressure, hypothetically, on FedEx stock. Wall Street's long thought that FedEx could be an attractive acquisition candidate for Amazon. How do you see that as a potential 2 or 3 years looking out? Do you think that scenario could ever come to play, or do you think there are other dynamics that would prohibit that?
It seems like the relationships are.
Oops. It looks like we lost a little bit of John's feed. And I do hope we can get John back. Otherwise, you'll hear OK Boomer talking about parcel. And OK Boomer would like to talk about ocean. Let me see if I can get John back. Well, John, we're supposed to have a real authentic stream here, and there's no way we could make this as a tape recorded session when it's truly live. So we're hoping that intrinsically, we're going to come back in like 10 seconds, because it is hard to ad lib and talk for 10 seconds without my great friend, John, coming back. And I don't see him right now. It must be that farmhouse that he's converted into this great office complex in Atlanta. It sounds great. But I have to send a gift of increased Cox communication bandwidth John's ways. Let me try to... Oh, I think he may be coming back in. So, yeah, I think I want to just paraphrase what John was saying, is that it's a tremendous opportunity that he's seeing and I'm seeing. Here he's coming in now. John? Hey, John, I was just paraphrasing everything. No problem. We can't see your cam, though, John. Is it...
You see me? Can you hear me, Steve?
No, I can hear you fine. I just have a blank screen.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. John? Oh, there you go.
Here we go.
Okay, are you good?
Sorry about that. Yeah.
All right, John, no problem.
Steve, this is one of the frustrations. I'm back here, and I think I jumped off where you're asking me about Amazon and FedEx.
Yes, please. Yeah, what's your opinion on that?
What I was saying is that it seems like the relationships between FedEx and Amazon are fairly rocky right now. They're not doing much business which is a lot of business that they're pulling away from the post office. I don't know about, I'm not sold on Amazon buying FedEx. I just don't see that happening. What I would like to see is Amazon had plans on really competing against FedEx and UPS and rolling out a third party delivery network. After COVID hit, they pulled those plans back in. That was supposed to happen in June. We were talking to Amazon about moving packages for customers of ours that were not that they were not doing fulfillment for. We really need a third competitor in the U.S. domestic marketplace the size of Amazon. There's a lot of good competitors on the last mile delivery with the post office, like Pitney Bowes and like DHL e-commerce. There's a lot of good regional carriers like an OnTrack and a LaserShip. But we really need a third major player in order to have better competition. So I just don't see Amazon buying FedEx. We'd like to see Amazon being a competitor to UPS and FedEx.
Oh, very good, very good. I appreciate your candor on that, John. You know, speaking of Amazon, the shift of Amazon to potentially use malls and dead space in those shopping centers as a distribution or fulfillment center. I'm wondering, I don't know if anyone's asked you the question, but how might that operationally affect the operations of, say, a FedEx, a UPS, a USPS, if Amazon does go into the malls, the regional malls?
I mean, I think it's a really good idea for Amazon. You're going to see maybe they're the core tenant. I mean, a lot of malls, and the question is, how much what brick and mortar do they build around that? Because right now, Amazon just doesn't have a lot of brick and mortar. They've got the Whole Food stores, they got Amazon Go stores, and that's about it. And so, how it impacts the UPS and FedEx is, you know, people potentially could be dropping their packages off there for Amazon to ship, which pulls volume away from UPS and FedEx and the post office. You know, a lot of times when I go to the mall, I'm usually buying a present for someone. If you can just go to Amazon and have a package up and ship it right there without having to go to the post office or the UPS store or FedEx office, that's a big change there. Now, a lot of times I'm buying stuff online and rather than going to the mall. That particularly has on UPS and FedEx, unless they start shipping off volume from UPS and FedEx and the post office.
Right, right, and I guess that would just really kind of ratchet into the B2C space, not the B2B. John, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, is it's even from an ocean perspective, it's more challenging right now with not that there are really service guarantees in ocean freight, but within your environment, FedEx, UPS, service guarantees are just not there anymore, or are they? Are there workarounds that large B2B clients can still get with service guarantees? Where do things stand on service guarantees?
You can forget about a service guarantee with anybody. Those were suspended back in April. There are no guarantees with UPS. There are no guarantees with FedEx. There are no guarantees with DHL. There's no guarantees with the post office. So there are not going to be any guarantees for the remainder of 2020. You can count on that. And the question is, how long does that extend into 2021 with no guarantees? And do the guarantees
John,
come back? I mean,
John, how oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, how important are those? How important are those service guarantees towards an organization's ability to offset costs? I mean, could you give me an example? I mean, do they contribute back 0.5%, or I mean, are they minuscule to begin with?
The guaranteed deliveries. I mean, if you have the ability to get your money back, if the package is late, it's material. You could be looking at a couple percentage points of your overall shipping cost. If
Holy
you're
cow.
Spending $20 million, a couple percentage points is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if the packages are late, do you have to reimburse your customer anyway? If you're committing to get the package to your customer by 10:30 and it shows up at 2 p.m., what does that do for you? I mean, how bad does that impact your brand? How does it impact customer service calls. There's a lot of things that need to go into how much does it cost you? Because then you're dealing with customer complaints.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if since service guarantees are eliminated, and let's just say that service is pretty poor, right? And you're looking at going into a new client or an existing client and helping them renegotiate a package. From an intrinsic point of view, how much, even though service guarantees are a no-go, are you still able to use that strategically when you start to petition start to get into a new rate environment with a carrier? Are you kind of able to segue and still make hay with those late services, or is that really, negated in terms of it being a competitive advantage?
No, we try to pull the service guarantee waiver out of any contract we see. I mean, it's guaranteed for a reason. What you'll see is carriers will say, this pricing is so aggressive that you need to waive the guarantee. We can't give you this pricing and have a guarantee on it. Pricing and service are two separate items, in our opinion. And so we don't like to see service waivers. Sometimes what we'll see is that there's what we call performance threshold, where you have to hit 99% effective, and if you fall below 99, then you have to pay out anything but lower than 99%. That's a tool that we use for some customers. So there's a little bit of compromise, but we don't like, if you have a service waiver, what happens if they miss an entire trailer? I mean, that could be $40,000, $50,000 worth of packages that miss service. You can't get the money back. What do you tell your customer? It gets very sticky.
Right, but I mean, there's no way to on leveraging these events with a new contract.
Oh yeah,
in other words,
absolutely. We
okay, great.
Yeah, we negotiate. If we see a waiver, we try and remove it from the contract in every case. We are very successful in removing waivers. Yes.
Okay, but also at the same time, though, am I saying the same thing? Because if I'm seeing a lot of failures and the waiver is not existing, can I use those failures to propel a new rate? So instead of $2 a package, I'm getting $1.89. Can I use old events to negotiate new rates?
You absolutely can. You can also get your money back on all those shipments, and that's a service that we provide. We're tracking every single package. If it's late, we get the money back for our clients. So we get the money back then, but if their service levels are poor, that's going to be a core sticking point in any negotiation. In any negotiation, price is one factor. Service levels, technology, operating plans are all just as critical as price. Because if you can't get it there on time, then you lose a sale, and that may end up costing you more than the pricing you have in place. You may lose a customer, and so we look at the broad variety of things when we're looking at a negotiation. Service is very critical.
John, one of the things that's really interesting, and again, maybe one of the few points of connectivity between spend management and ocean audit is the next topic I want to bring up. And I have UPS and FedEx both have mid-level in terms of ranking of the top NVOCCs. They're in the 13th, 14th, 15th position in terms of their ocean product.
Yep.
Now, I'm always troubled, right? Because I look at FedEx or UPS and I think to myself, holy cow, if I'm running it, that ocean product's going to go to number 6. I guess my problem is that I've seen many cases where in the enterprise mode of the UPS FedEx sales strategy with a parcel client, that even though that parcel client may have really, 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 really significant ocean, do you think the reason why the FedEx and the UPS don't go hot and heavy into the ocean is that they don't want to ruin the relationship in the parcel with, say, a snafu that might happen in ocean? I'm really having trouble to understand why they don't take more advantage of the dynamics and therefore give the customer better overall aggregate pricing.
That's a great question. And I can tell you, because I worked at UPS in corporate finance, it's not an internal inherent core competency for UPS and FedEx in most cases, the margins are not nearly as good as they are and they're used to on small parcel. They're used to having the highest margins in the business. They've been forced to go into LTL. I can remember 20 years ago, we kept on, UPS was looking at a lot of different LTL companies, and we're looking at what's the OR on this LTL. It's a 93 OR. We're used to having an 83 OR. What does it do to the margin of our overall business profile? And a lot of times we saw that it's a drag. People want a one-stop shop now. And so UPS has grown and FedEx have grown their forwarding businesses, their ocean business through acquisition. They don't have, in my opinion, the right people selling those services for them. Where you see where they have a lot of business, it's usually because they've got so much parcel, they've got it bundled up in an enterprise agreement where you've got a lot of different components that are all bundled together, and UPS supply chain is got a lot of the ocean, FedEx trade network. It's just not really their core business competency, and it shows in their rankings.
Yeah, I think one of the things you raise a good point. Yeah, I'm friends. I'm colleagues or industry chums with a lot of the people in all the different companies we mentioned, and I think that one of the things like with FedEx Ocean, for example, is they carry a tremendous amount of lumber and plywood, from places like say Brazil or Chile, and that material is more low margin than it would be say handling a higher percentage of electronics from West Asia or from Vietnam. So I mean their product mix is a little bit could use a little bit of enhancement. But I agree with you that they just need to do a better job improving the mix, and I think it's a little bit too old school for them, that got a great parcel guy in Detroit, but working on the automakers, but he hasn't been able to necessarily or wanting to go over and switch it over to the ocean. And maybe why should he? I mean, maybe he has very little incentive. So, but John, I know that as we get closer, we're at about the 35-minute mark of our 45-minute session, and I do want to save some time to see if anyone has any questions. But I think one of the things that I wanted to save as a question for the end here. I'm a firm believer, and by the way, you're watching Steve Ferreira and of Ocean Audit and John Haber of Spend Management Experts having a discussion about profits and current status in shipping, parcel, ocean. So thanks for joining us on OK Boomer Live. But John, if you are in a room right now, and I think this is one of the things the audience wants to hear, and you're talking to a CFO, and the CFO looks at you and says, John, what are 3 easy, quick things that we can do to enhance our profit and get the best possible service? Can you kind of rattle off what would be 3 things that the average CFO might want to look at?
When I think in terms of 3 things that are critical in order to have effective, cost reduction, number 1 is visibility. You have got to have information at your fingertips. If you're the CFO, you got to have the data, and it sounds a lot easier than it is. We see that data is fragmented across large organizations. Somebody manages ocean spend, another person manages parcel, and just trying to get all the information together so that you have visibility, number 1. Number 2 is transparency. You have a lot of information. Okay, you have all this information. What does it all mean? How do you analyze it and make sense of it? And do you have tools to really help you analyze it? Do you have a team that really knows what they're doing when they're analyzing the data? And so if I'm a CFO, I want to see it. I want to make sense of it so that I can make decisions. And then I want to plan to execute. And when you execute, you get the front end execution. What a lot of organizations don't do is they don't measure it effectively. And the back end execution. Are you realizing the savings? Are people being compliant? And so it's one thing to project savings, it's another to measure and prove it out. Now, sometimes that's not that easy to implement, especially if you don't have the visibility on the front end. If you have the data, you can set the other two up fairly quickly, and that's what we really help people do. So those are really the key areas that if I'm a CFO, you need to be looking at.
I think those are brilliant. I would second those accordingly. I think that the other conversation that I would like you to comment on that the audience may want some input on is that certainly if you're looking at a multinational or a global Fortune 100 company, you're ultimately in a room with 2 or 3 people from different parts of the organization in finance and supply chain and logistics. So sometimes these meetings turn a little defensive, where you're plugging away there, giving the client great metrics on what to do next. And then there's comments that come up like, well, we can't control the market, or prices are rising, or we can't sustain free shipping. But if you're sitting there, John, and John Haber being the expert that you are, if you're sitting in that group between finance, supply chain, logistics, marketing, what's the case that you can make that would appease all of them? Something that they could proactively say, let's do this today because we have disparate amount of opinion, and what can we do to at least partially neutralize blowing out our shipping budget because of all these cost overruns? Is there something that you're thinking about today that maybe in the last day or two you hadn't thought about? What one tip could you give your potential clients or our marketplace to be that impartial referee to say, okay, don't do this, but do, and how would you figure out that fill in?
Number one, focus on the 80-20 rule. I mean, don't get bogged down in the 20%. Focus on the areas where you have the largest impact. Number one. Number two, look at controllable versus uncontrollable. In many cases, people are blaming it on the market, and they're right. And if that's what the market is, there may not be anything you can do about certain things. Focus on what you can control and attack the part that you can control on the 80%. And that's what people need to focus in rather than getting, preoccupied with minutia that doesn't really matter. And if you do that effectively, then in most cases, you're doing a good job.
John, I love that. I tell clients all the time that I'm a 90-10, 80-20 guy, depending on what the situation is at hand. And I do really think that a lot of what you described goes beyond that, and it really is the expertise that you bring to guide the client to that 80%. I know that in my practice, clients will want to start talking about, the 10 containers to France or the 8 containers out of South Africa. But, it does come back to the 1,700 containers out of South China, which is going to help drive the cost. John, we talked the other day informally, and you said a metric that blew me away. And I don't think we've discussed it necessarily thoroughly in today's show. But the average price increases that we're seeing in parcel, you mentioned threw out a percentage number, and it blew me away. What are you seeing as the average increase for your clients, percentage-wise?
Which increase? I mean, there is an increase, Steve. There's almost an increase. There's a new increase every month.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me reframe the question. So this year versus 6 months ago, how much more are your clients paying in their budget? Yeah.
No, and I was being sarcastic. I mean, it's a moving target. I mean, you had the increases in January where they were seeing for most clients, you're looking at somewhere between a 6 to 9% increase. If you're shipping bulky items, you're looking at 15% cost increases. Then the peak surcharges started rolling out in April, and so depending on your profile, I mean, some of these surcharges are 20% increases. The surcharge rate on a shipment from Hong Kong to the U.S. has gone from 10 cents a kilo to 90 cents a kilo. So you're talking huge cost increases for a lot of multinational corporations that are shipping goods in from Asia into the U.S. And the trend just continues now on the domestic side. And I started on international with the surcharges, then it moved to domestic, and the rates just keep going up. You're looking at 15 to 20% cost increases for most shippers in 2020.
Wow. John, I think that one of the things that we talked about on the increases is a really sensitive area for, I think, most e-commerce players, and that's the free shipping. I mean, do you actually see this year? Do you see anybody? I mean, not naming names, but do you see a break in the cloth, so to speak, where shipping will be charged again in terms of instead of it being free? Do you see a shipping premium that retailers will charge instead of giving it away?
We're seeing it in Europe. We're seeing it in the UK. Some of their largest retailers are now charging a couple of bucks a package to try and cover that cost. Free shipping is, I continually preach about that. There's no such thing. There's subsidized shipping, so that maybe you're not paying for it. Somebody's paying for it, and so it's not sustainable on the long term. There are different tools to try and move it into the cost of the product. But when you're competing against Amazon, who sells everything. You can't really move it into the cost of the product, and then Amazon's got cheaper rates on shipping than anybody, and so it's a real problem for retailers. Customers expect it, and I just don't see, going into 2021 with these rate increases, I think you're going to start seeing that people are going to start charging some for shipping. Free returns is also, it's a huge hole for a lot of these customers, because we see returns rates of as high as 30% for some retailers. And you're paying for the shipping outbound, and then they're returning it. You don't get the sale, and you got to pay for the return shipping. It doesn't make sense. You lose money on that.
John, two last questions, and the audience has been just great as they listen to your words of wisdom here. But I had a question about Amazon in general. I'm a big fan of Amazon. I have been for years, and I use them for all our equipment and stuff and retail stuff. And I'm starting to see here in the greater New Haven, Connecticut, Hartford area where they're returning to one-day delivery. So unlike some of the service issues that FedEx, UPS, and the post office are having, Amazon's own fleet seems to be bailing them out at a right time, at the right place. Could this be seen as some kind of first mover differentiation strategy now that Amazon is back to a one-day delivery, or is there something else at work here?
Well, they had to hire 150,000 people in order to do that. UPS and FedEx have hired a lot of people. They're staffing up for the holiday season. I think that you're going to see, and there's certain areas where Amazon is moving back and their network is becoming more normalized because they continue to expand, but they need more infrastructure. They've already announced that they need more infrastructure. So you're going to see delays with Amazon and all of the carriers for the rest of this year. It's not going to be back to normal. You are seeing definitely some improvements from Amazon, no doubt, especially over March and April. The service levels are much better.
And two quick questions, John, and we in the audience will let you continue on your successful day in helping clients save money and reduce costs. But I had a question. In ocean, right now we're seeing record profits with many of the ocean carriers. The way that they've constrained space and moved the markets, it's been an incredible, profitable year for them. And it looks like Q3 and Q4 will continue to be very strong for them. With regards to the parcel carriers, UPS and FedEx, how are their financials? Are they strong? Are they also benefiting from obviously taking the increased revenue to the bank? Are they in really great position now financially?
The answer is yes. And I saw Maersk's profit announcement today, so that was rather impressive on the ocean side, with revenue being down and profit being up 3x. So. Right. UPS and FedEx stocks are at all-time highs. FedEx is over 200, UPS is over 160. They are in great financial position right now. Their average daily volumes were up over 20% in the second quarter. Their profit margins are down because of the shift to residential from commercial, which is less profitable. But when your volume is up that much, the volume makes enough profit for you. They made huge profits. They blew away forecasts. UPS blew away forecasts. So the stocks are very, very bullish. They have a lot of leverage right now because of capacity. They're in a good position. They're in a better position than shippers right now. Shippers need help dealing with them.
Well, John, I echo what you said on that. I mean, I'm not an investment professional, but I follow a lot of obscure ocean stocks around the world. And I can tell you that some experts have not seen the value in some of these stocks. And there's a lot of upside because there's a lot of profits still to be had there. So I'm glad to see that the carryover effect, at least for FedEx's and UPS's sake, is good because at least they have some working capital that they can start looking at how they're going to continue to serve the market as we get further past the crisis. I guess, John, one final question, and I think this would be an important question for the audience, is, you wake up today and you're thinking something unique about the market that you didn't think about yesterday. Can you share maybe one final tip or trick with the audience to kind of help them get ahead of the curve in at least with regards to the parcel and small parcel supply chain space? If you could give them maybe one last thought that you weren't thinking about yesterday to help them get ahead, what would it be?
Pay attention is what I would encourage people to do. These changes that I'm talking about, in many cases, they're not, the sales teams don't even know about them. They're just posted to the website. For instance, there's a monitor the UPS and FedEx price change websites on a weekly basis. That's how we find out about it. That's how everybody finds out about it. It just pops up there, and a lot of times
don't they put out an alert? They don't do that.
In most cases, we're telling our customer about the new surcharge, not the carrier.
They're learning it from you?
They are hearing about it from us, yes.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's actually, you know what? That is a perfect segue to tell the audience, if they care to, how do we get in touch with you and get more tips and tricks from your team?
The best way is to reach out to us online. You can find us at www.spendmgmt.com. Just drop in your information and it'll get filtered to us, and we'd love to hear from you. If there's anything we can do to help out, just fill in a little bit of information. We've got our phone number is also posted on the website, so you can give us a call as well, and we'd love to see if there's anything we can do. I appreciate you having me on. It's always great to chat with you, Steve.
Oh, listen, you're the consummate professional, and we are in the same space. We don't compete, but it's a deep mutual respect society that I have for you, John, and you've done a great job helping American and international business achieve better cost structures. We also at Ocean Audit are doing the same. And I think that leaders and financial folks and logistics folks that have watched this video and will be watching it on replay, and also a special shout out to CNN and Fox News for signing up. And we encourage any questions or comments. Ocean Audit can be reached at stevef@oceanaudit.com, or you can even phone me directly at 860-200-8868. John, I want to thank you for being my special guest today. I've learned a lot in speaking to you. Whenever you're my go-to person when it comes to these topics that exceed my bandwidth, I always believe that you will have the client's best interest at heart. I wish you continued success as we continue our discussions, and I hope you'll come on OK Boomer another time. How's that sound?
Hey, it's been a pleasure, and I can tell the audience when it comes to ocean freight, nobody knows it better than Steve. That's the truth. So it's been a great time. Enjoyed talking to you, and look forward to the next time, Steve.
John, thank you again, and signing off to all our LinkedIn live users and viewers around the world. Steve Ferreira, host of OK Boomer Live, CEO of Ocean Audit. Thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow on tomorrow's show with Kevin Hill of Freight Waves. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Cheers.